Okay, I am here with Holly Rillinger, who has become my guru in a sense because I met you at a menopause something or other that Midi was sponsoring.
Correct.
And I came up to you and I said, I was just diagnosed with osteoporosis. I was told I have to start lifting. I don't know the first thing about lifting. And you said, come to my studio, I'll help you. And that was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. And ever since then, I have been doing your program 3 times a week without fail, and I feel so much stronger, healthier. Tell me how you got into heavy weightlifting, what your program's about, and how it helps women with osteoporosis.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm so happy that you dove right in, and that's a testament to you being committed as well. Well, I started lifting when I was 13,
Oh,
because I had a dream of playing professional basketball, and wasn't tall, so I didn't have the gift of height or anything that was just going to naturally propel me in the sport. So I knew very early on, I got to be quicker, I got to be stronger, I got to be smarter, I got to be faster. So I got in the strength room. I got into lifting weights, back squatting, leg pressing, deadlifting when I was 13 years old.
at
And
school.
this was in the eight, not even at school because they didn't do it for girls. The
Oh,
guys did it, but I went to the YMCA and was playing with the boys and basically doing everything that the boys did.
right.
Because there weren't a lot of girls who were also as committed as I was. So it would be me and the guys,
Right.
doing what we were doing to be better at basketball.
Right. And then you tell me about your from 13 until now. So how did you become this expert in women weightlifting?
Yeah, so I went on, I played collegiately, I played professionally. My basketball career ended around 28, age 28.
Mhm.
At that point, I was like, what am I going to do now? What do I want to do with my life? I'm kind of being birthed into the real world a little later than, the
Right.
average person. And I decided to go into personal training just because of the experience I had and the education I had gotten along, just doing it with myself.
Mhm.
I didn't really like it at first. It was very different, like fueling a personal dream versus, helping other people. So it
Right.
was definitely a big mindset shift for me to be like, okay, I want to help you become better and not just me. Also, I didn't really know how to deal with people who were like, I can't. I was like, what? Like, you should work with other pro athletes. You should work with athletes. And I don't know why that just never really appealed to me. And then somewhere in those first few years of being a trainer, like I really tapped into the underdog in myself and was
Mhm.
able to relate to me being, the youngest in the gym or the only girl in the gym. And I was like, all right, let me tap into the things I used to say to myself as an underdog and really start to help people understand how much of this is a mindset and not being scared and being able to push yourself to become stronger or more confident. So that was really the shift for me, going from being the athlete to the coach. Um, at that point, I'm like 30. I decided to move to New York City. Um, for a little while, just kind of sidebar, I was like, maybe there is something for me outside the gym. And I started selling real estate.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I quickly was like, no, this is not it. There's no passion in this at all. And sometimes you have to step away from something to really know, like, okay, that is for me,
Right.
like exactly where I need to be. So I moved to New York. I was selling real estate, was not doing well at it. I felt like I was like swimming with sharks.
Right.
Oh my God, this is a league that I don't belong in. And I actually went to a Tony Robbins seminar.
Oh,
And
wow.
somebody gave me a ticket. They were like, just come. And I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm not doing well, you know? And I decided, you know what? I have all the tools that I need to be really successful at helping people train. And from there, um, I started teaching at Flywheel, which was a
Huh.
spin studio at the time, and I really got my voice there. I was like feeling like I was coaching 30 people at a time and really being able to put into words everything I had experienced as an athlete. So that was kind of like the first few steps I took. But really, my passion's always been with what can I do with my body with weights? Because
Right.
I knew what I could do. And for years, it was so hard to convince women that you're not going to bulk up, that it is fun, that you're not going to get hurt. And really, it hasn't been until the last 2 years with this big emphasis on menopause, this big emphasis on bone density,
Yeah.
really bringing science to light and being like, listen, if you're bulking up, it's probably not because you're lifting heavy. It's because of your nutrition or, a variety of other things. So as I was approaching menopause, I was nervous. Like people would be like, "Oh, just wait.
Right.
You get to be 45, you're not going to have that body anymore." I was like, "Really?" Like I don't know. I think I will. So, and back, let's say 5, 6 years ago, the only literature I could find about hormones was like Suzanne Summers or highly like medical conferences that you had to like be a medical, person.
Expert or a doctor, right, to understand. Yeah.
So I was like trying to find the literature and it just wasn't there. And then thankfully, I just turned 50 and 2 years ago, I met Dr. Mary Claire Haver. I started talking to Dr. Corinne Menn and Dr. Kelly Casperson, and I started seeing all these doctors and reaching out to them on Instagram because also luckily, Instagram has become such a great resource
Oh,
for medical help, especially in the menopause field. Who knew? So that's when
there's nothing else for us right now.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and it's accessible, which
Yeah.
is great. When I look on Instagram, like mostly what I'm looking at is information like from doctors that's
Yep.
helping me, you know, strengthen my stance or collaborate with other people in the same space. And I'm just thankful that this happened at the same time I'm going through it so that I can not only be an advocate for other women, but I can say, this is what's happening to my own body right now. This is what I'm experiencing.
Right. Well, one of the things that I find fascinating just about your class is that, if I'd ever lifted weights in the past, it would have been like a 5 pound weight, a 3 pound weight, maybe 10, maybe I go up to 10. But you in your class emphasize lifting heavy, and
Yeah.
you tell women, you're looking at them doing their lifting, and you say, Mary, you can be lifting 30 there, or Jane, you can be lifting much more there. And when I saw the size weights you were using, I just thought there's no way I can do that. And then slowly but surely, I've been building up and building up, and you one surprises oneself with how much we can actually lift with our, like, my 5'2" puny self, right? um how did you know that that was important for women to start lifting heavier?
Yeah, I mean, well, for starters, I just know the science behind, a lot of women, they want to be lean. Like, let's just start about the first level of why you might lift weights, aesthetics, right? I don't want to gain weight. I don't, want to have more fat, accumulating through my life. Well, science tells us the more muscle you have on your body, the higher your metabolism is going to be.
Right.
So if you just think about that and you just go back to the grassroots of science, strength training is a better tool than cardio. They're for body composition. So you start from there, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. Every decade over 40, I'm losing. All I'm doing is my body's losing mass. So that naturally means my metabolism's starting to shut down. So just scientifically, what's the best way to keep that going? Well, it's to build muscle. And from there, just being in the industry and really connecting to science, we know that to build muscle and any kind of metabolic adaptation, I'm going to be a little scientific here,
Go
you
ahead.
need
Yeah.
over 70% of your 1 rep max. Now, most of us,
Say that again. You need to be lifting over 70% of your 1 rep max. So if I can, like, do a bicep curl of a 40-pound weight once,
yeah,
I don't even know if I can do that, by the way.
probably not.
Yeah. All right, let's go to 15. Like, say I can do 115.
Squat, because you have such a limited growth through the bicep because it's a little tiny little muscle.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about your legs.
Yeah.
All right, let's just say we decided Deb, we're gonna get you in there and we're gonna see what you can 1 rep max with a kettlebell.
Right.
You'd probably surprise yourself. You'd probably like have at least a 50-pound kettlebell.
Well,
you know.
I definitely have strong legs because I did 18 years of ballet. So like that, I already had strong legs. It was my upper body that was really kind of weakling. Um, but you also started a menopause boot camp at your gym. And I brought my male partner with me, and he thought that was very cool to be like the one guy in the room full of women. But what is it about menopause and bone loss and weightlifting? How do you explain this to the women that come to you?
Yeah. Well, for starters, and this is where I think we really need to educate the younger people, we stop laying down new bone at age 30. We're done.
Mhm.
We're not going to lay down any new bone. It doesn't mean that we can't, increase our bone density, but like you break a bone later in life, the recovery is far different than you break a bone at 10 and
Oh,
like,
I broke my wrist. Yeah, I broke my wrist a year and a half ago. It still hurts. It
yeah.
still hurts.
So what happens when we lift weights is the tendons and the ligaments pull on the bone. And our body's just a wonderful machine that when we do these micro injuries to it, people do it with chemical peels and lasers, and you can think about it in all the different ways. But the way our body is designed to work is you want to break it down a little bit so the body rushes back to like repair it.
Mhm.
So the reason why lifting weight increases your bone density is because when you're lifting that heavy weight, and remember, most of the magic happens in that higher weight, that 70% or more of your one rep max. You're doing enough damage to the bone that the bone's going to come back and repair itself. And that's the same way with muscles. Like we're trying to micro damage those muscles enough so that it's going to come back and have you're going to have a training effect. You're actually going to either build the muscle bigger or stronger, depending on your nutrition and what you're doing alongside that. So that's the science. That's the reason why your bone density is affected by lifting heavier weights.
Well, also, I came to the gym, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and you had this different kind of scale at the gym, which is not a normal scale. It shows you, your BMI. It shows you all sorts of details about your inner workings. And I have realized since starting lifting weights that I've gained 10 pounds, but my clothes fit just as well, if not better, than they used to fit. So I've gained 10 pounds of muscle weight. And so now getting on the scale, like I used to gauge how I was doing health wise by the scale. You can't do that anymore
No.
because if you're lifting weights and you're lifting heavy weights, you're actually gaining heavier, you're getting muscle weight. So that's going to make you heavier. So what is this scale that you had at your gym? And can the average consumer get it, or is it really expensive?
No, well, the one I have, I kind of went all in. It's a $10,000
Okay.
machine called an in-body, but I really did that to really make us a more credible, science-backed,
Right.
separate us from the berries boot camps and the orange theories and the like, let's measure your success. You're coming,
Mhm.
let's get you on here. Let's see how much muscle you have in pounds. Let's see how much fat you have in pounds. Let's check your body composition, your percentage of fat. Let's also see what your resting metabolic rate is, because it'll tell you that based on how much muscle you have. And then let's do it again in 8 weeks and see what's changed. They just came out with the InBody H30, and I'm happy to give all your listeners a discount code as well. You
Okay.
can get it at home for $299, and I think with the discount it's like $250. The great thing about that is,
$99
yeah,
or 250?
yeah,
Okay. Now we're talking. Yeah.
oh,
Okay.
yeah, right.
10,000 I can't do, but maybe 299, 250. Sure.
The only difference, because I got it, because I was like, I wonder if this works. I have one at home, the little one, and I got on multiple times to see if it was similar, because I wanted to test both sides side by side. The $10,000 machine can break you down, and like it just gives you more data,
Right.
additional. But let's just say, for the sake of monitoring your progress, monitoring your weight in a way that actually gives you the full picture. The interesting thing that starts to happen is it takes time, but you're not as affected by that number because
Yeah.
you look down a little bit further and you're like, okay, that's the number. I have anxiety. I'm 5 pounds heavier because I'm conditioned to feel anxiety, and I probably could potentially have a terrible day today. And then you dispel that feeling and you go down and you're like, oh, I gained 4 pounds of muscle in the last month. and this is a game changer. Now my metabolism's higher. What I'm seeing, even with myself, I go into the InBody, I skip over that first number. I've chill bumps saying it because I've had a whole life of 125 is a great day, 130 is a terrible day,
Right, I understand. I get it. Yes.
And now if you go in and you actually see women skipping that number,
Hmm.
such a paradigm shift. That's just such a remarkable thing to see people do, because I wish we went around and asked each other, how much muscle do you have? Like,
Right.
what if I just said, oh, I'm 75 pounds of muscle. What are you? Oh, I'm 65 pounds of muscle. Like, that should be the way we communicate to each other.
So what has been, when did you start the lifted method, and what has been the response of the women in, I mean, I know what my response is, but what has been sort of the overall response from your population there?
Yeah, believe it or not, lifted is 10 years old, like most things that you discover, like there's a whole backstory to it. And the reason I started lifted initially was to have a very meaningful strength training program, but its first iteration was combining meditation,
Oh,
which
wow. Okay.
that was like my first like creation. And the reason for that being, like, as an athlete, I really knew the importance of being mentally present and physically present and the power of combining the two. And we certainly still emphasize that. As you know, we start with a meditation, we hit like our absolute peak effort and we meditate again. Still really proud of that. But our focus has really shifted now to encouraging women to strength training, because I'm really seeing an opportunity right now where women are, for the first time in my life, people are open to it. Like, women are literally coming in and saying, I just want to be strong. Granted, a lot of it is sadly because so many women are getting osteoporosis diagnosis right now and they're
Well, or
scared.
they're finally getting their DEXA scans. I mean, the DEXA scan, the guidelines say you have to be 65, but everybody I've spoken to says no, 50. And these are doctors. Sorry, there's a siren outside, but 50 is the age. And so now that we're shouting, go get your DEXA scans, a lot of women, I mean, from my story alone, dozens of women called me and said, oh, I got a DEXA scan, I have osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So we're finally realizing, wait a minute, we need, the only reason I came to you is because I was diagnosed with osteoporosis. I never really thought it was important to do weightlifting because I was like, well, I'm doing, walking or running every other day. I'm doing yoga every other day. That's enough. But actually, yoga is great for stretching and strengthening, but it's not really great for that lifting and breaking down the muscle.
Exactly. Exactly. And um yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought, but
Right, it's
I,
okay.
I think that's one of the problems with the medical industry. Why are we discarding women at a pivotal point in their life, and that you're giving them a DEXA scan when it's too late?
Yes,
I
it's so
mean, I don't want to say it's too late to anybody, but we should be getting DEXA scans at 45.
yeah.
We still have estrogen in our body.
Have a
Before.
baseline DEXA scan at 45 to know what you're like before you start losing your estrogen, then at 50 to see what's happening in menopause. I mean, just the insanity. Today I was looking up, this is unrelated but related. So I had really bad adenomyosis and I ended up having my uterus out in 2012. But I was like thinking today, like, does it get caused by pregnancy? And so I Google, pregnancy, does pregnancy trigger adenomyosis? And again, like with everything with women's health, we think it might, but there haven't been any studies.
Yeah,
Everything, everything,
everything.
everything to do with women's health, and
Who have had their uterus out for, just to be safe because of breast cancer, and they weren't even told. Just so you know, you're going to be thrust right into menopause.
nobody told me that. Yeah, nobody
Buddy,
told me.
like, that's such an important change that you should be talked through.
Yeah,
It's just
10 years,
mind.
10 years, 10 years for me to be like, I think something's wrong with me. Maybe
Yeah.
I need estrogen anyway. Is there anything else you want to mention that I haven't asked you about the importance of weightlifting specifically at this age, perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I created Menopause Bootcamp. It's a virtual program. So any of your listeners, the reason I created it is because most women right now going through perimenopause, menopause, or PS, you're never out of menopause. So if you're like, oh, I'm out, you're not. It's for the rest of your life. Once you hit the pause, you're in it. We didn't have role models. We didn't have our parents or aunts or teachers, females lifting weights. So you're not alone to think, I'm scared. I have nowhere to start. I feel intimidated. So I created this program so that you would have a safe place to go to really learn the basics, because there is a lot to know, but I think it's really important for starters to create a solid foundation. Why are you lifting? What's the role that protein plays? What are some of the core compound movements like squatting, deadlifting, bench pressing, rowing, jump training? What are these core movements that should be part of my strength training routine? And then from there, there's a lot to know. That's why there's trainers. How many sets do I do? Why would I do 5 sets of 5 instead of 4 sets of 10? What's the difference? How do I know when to go up in weight? Like, there's a million things that I totally get why someone would be like, ugh, I'll do it next week.
Right.
But there's a lot of power in just taking that first step. And if you do, and I'd love to give all your subscribers like a discount to Menopause Bootcamp, $99. We really wanted to make it super accessible to everybody, like whether you live in New York City or not.
Right.
But if you do something like that for yourself and you start to understand, you're going to open up so much confidence that it's not going to look like this crazy, like insanely, like scary place. And then from there, just learn the fundamentals and understand why. Like a lot of my clients, not a lot anymore because I don't do a lot of one-on-one, but you kind of go on autopilot and you just do what you're told and you don't know why. Like, have a sense of curiosity. Like, this is your body. Why are you training your legs? Well, why are you doing compound movements? Why is it great to one day be able to progress to a barbell on your back? Like, if you have a sense of curiosity, you're taking ownership over your body. You're not just letting someone else take the wheel. And I think that's really important because we have the potential to live to be 100.
Right.
Like, really value this incredible time. Like, I feel wiser than ever. I am financially independent. Like, I don't need people's opinions anymore to make me feel good. Like, what a wildly fun time of our life to be in. Let's make sure our body can take us all the way through. So take the wheel and really understand why you're doing what you're doing.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to ask them one last question, which you just asked of yourself. Why are we doing squats?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm somebody who has really big quads. I actually just presented at the Live Longer Stronger event, and I actually put little shorts on and presented with my big quads out to make a point. And for 50 years, I wanted to get rid of those legs. I would have done anything. I was like, how do I train and get rid of these? And people were like, you're insane. And I was. I just didn't know it yet. Now I'm going to work for another 50 years to keep them.
Right.
Your legs house the biggest muscles in your body. Like, you can work these biceps all day long. You're not going to increase your metabolism a lot because what are you going to gain here? A half a pound at most over a year. These quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, like, these are big parts of your body. So you can make the biggest impact by lifting the biggest part of your body. But not only that, when you're lifting, let's say a squat, your shoulders are back and engaged. Your core is working to balance you. You're working on mobility through your hips, right? You're working through a full range of motion. Going down to the ground and up is taking a lot of energy. So these big compound movements, deadlift, squat, just to kind of name the two best, they're not just a leg exercise. You're getting so much more out of it. So it's really, you're getting a lot more mileage out of something than you would traditional, like, women's lifts, right? This and this. Let's feel about what we're doing.
But also, I would argue when you're strengthening your legs, I mean, the killer for anybody like me with osteoporosis is a fall. So for me, I'm like, well, I would like to strengthen my legs so that I have better way of catching myself if I fall.
Absolutely. Jump training too. Like, the number of times I've almost sprained my ankle, but like I was able to catch myself, and that's all kinds of training, but it's not necessarily isolated bicep curls. You want to do some of these bigger things like box jumps or broad jumps or like balance training, single leg deadlift. Like, if you have a great trainer or a great program, you're going to incorporate all the things that are going to enable you to be strong, agile, mobile, And listen, I'm in no way too. One of the biggest things I took away from this longevity conference I was at is you do still need cardio.
Right.
Like, I think that, like, I think for women, it's just that most of us are cardio junkies. So it's just like we're trying to push strength training to the front of mind. But, still zone two cardio is great. Dr. Stacy Sims, which is one of my favorite doctors out there right now, talking a lot about interval training, like 20 seconds of all out, 10 out of 10, as we do at Lifted,
Right. Right.
all out effort, getting like 5 of those intervals in, 4 times a week, really good for VO2 max for your heart. So your best program is going to be a well-rounded one. It's just, as women, I think we need to learn how to properly strength train because we don't know how.
Well, what we've been doing between strength training is doing walk runs where we walk a little bit and then all out run for like 5 minutes, then walk a little bit, then all out run again. Anyway, it's kind of retraining my brain. I've always, exercised and tried to be healthy, but I feel like I'm entering a new era of exercise and trying to figure out a way to stay healthy these next, God willing, 30 to 40 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we do have a lot of doctors who are reading, studies all the time. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of money, hopefully more money now going into women's health, but it's really interesting to listen to these doctors and actually have access to these medical journals and these studies.
Oh
Like
yeah.
hearing Stacey Sims, like one way you could improve your time in between with your cardio, she's been saying really intense shorter bursts.
Right.
You could take, instead of running all out for 5 minutes, you should run all out for 30 seconds.
Oh,
Because
that's interesting. Right.
because you're going to get so much more effort out of 30 seconds and then you rest for a minute 30.
So it's
But
sprints, basically.
like what we're going to be listening to doctors for. It's great because they're going to dissect this information and these studies, and then as a trainer, I'm able to apply it and teach.
Well, I was just thinking about when you were saying that we all, grew up on cardio, like I'm 58, and so I was the perfect Jane Fonda workout video generation, right? My
Yeah.
mom did aerobics, we all did aerobics, but I didn't,
Yeah.
the be all end all.
Well, something I'm loving too about just the fitness industry in general. The last 10 years, it was all about influencers, just completely illegitimate methods popping up all over the place of do this. Why? Because I look good and I look great in this set and I'm going to follow you and I have 1 million followers now. And really kind of science coming to the forefront now and people waking up and saying, is that science backed? It's not just about a great playlist and the lights, and I think, New York especially went through a pretty awesome, fun boutique fitness phase for 10 years where it was all about just like how fun is it? How great's the moody lighting? Let's get scientific about what we're doing because we want to have fun, but are we actually spending our money and our time where we should? And I think that people are waking up to that, which is nice.
That's a wonderful way to end. All right, I'm going to press stop and then you and I will chat afterwards. Hold on one second.